Registered representatives offer securities through Securities America, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Financial advisors offer advisory services through Securities America Advisors, Inc. Forest Hills Financial, Inc. and Securities America are separate entities. This is the Keeping Your Money Show with Jamie Westenbarger and Bart Steindler.
Good morning. Welcome to Keep Your Money Show on this cold Saturday in Michigan. I'm Jamie Westenbarger, joined as always by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Bart Steindler. How's it going today, Bart?
I'm doing well. It's another $1 million cold morning in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, Laura's actually wearing a scarf and sweater and earmuffs and...
I've never seen that combo earmuffs headphones before. Is
No?
that new?
Yeah, you know, it's the new thing that everyone in radio is doing. So.
I see. Everyone in Michigan radio, anyway.
Right. This is the Keep Your Money Show, where we cut through all the bulls, the booyahs, the bells, whistles, honks, and horns to get you to the information that actually helps you move towards retirement. We've been doing over a decade, so we must be doing something right here on the radio. The longest locally broadcast financial program in Michigan, so you are listening to the right place. And now, of course, the official financial program tied in with The Huge Show. So if you're fans of The Huge Show, you'll hear me every once in a while. Actually, I'm going to be on there on the 20th. What's that, Tuesday? Tuesday.
So.
Tune into Huge. We'll be on there. I'm sure we'll be talking about Michigan after they beat up on Indiana today and the upcoming Ohio State game in a couple weeks. And I'm sure he'll want to talk about the Lions. I'm done with the Lions, so... I don't want to talk about the Lions again.
There was that one story earlier this week about a family, I think it was in St. Clair Shores, and they announced that they were divorcing. The family was actually getting a divorce from the Lions.
I think they heard that from me, though, because I became a Chiefs fan at the beginning of this season.
Right.
And I feel like they just were trying to bandwagon what I've already done. But that's okay. They can get in the news for it.
Either that or, you just had two logical people come to the same conclusion.
Right.
But I thought the funniest part of that story is that they were doing it for their children because they didn't want to have their kids suffer not fun football for 25 years.
We were watching preseason football this year. I watched it with my son. We'd been Lion season ticket holders at one point in time. I'm watching the look on his face and realizing he's hating football because of who we root for. We have to root for someone else. But nonetheless, even though we are on a sports station, we are not a sports show. This is the Keep Your Money Show, and we've got a great show on deck today. We're going to talk about home health care costs, those long-term care costs that are really starting to hurt the United States, and some ideas that could fix the problem. Health savings accounts, are you using it correctly? Probably not. Pension planning, lump sum versus monthly payments. We're seeing more and more companies offering lump sum pensions to people and how to kind of help you make those decisions. And then recently, a story just a couple weeks ago from an esteemed senator. I use the word esteemed very loosely.
I think he steamed you up.
Yeah.
I think that was it.
Blamed Social Security for the ballooning federal deficit. And we have to talk about how idiotic that statement is, and the fact that the government just won't fix Social Security, and we're going to talk about that later as well. But I want to remind you can always join the show. Give us a call. 888-98-MONEY is our number. 888-986-6639. We do not take calls on the air, but someone will answer your call and pass along your information. You also can shoot us an email. That email address is info, I-N-F-O, at keepingyourmoney.com, and I do respond to those emails personally. So good article in Barron's that you brought to my attention, Bart, kind of talking about this idea of home health care. We talk about, health care. We saw with the rollout of the Affordable Care Act, which, remember, if you are covered under Obamacare, this is the open enrollment period. Do not screw that up and forget to do that. But we've talked a lot about healthcare costs rising and things, but as our population is aging, we are seeing a lot more need, of course, for whether it's a caregiver, whether it's assisted living, whether it's a part-time nurse, maybe it's full-on nursing home care, and many of us are finding that situation where that money's coming out of pocket because there isn't anything that covers that.
Yeah, and one of the really important points that this article makes is that it's imperative that we think about this and start addressing this problem, because there's just too many people, because of the aging of the baby boomers and the longevity of people's life, that you have too many people who are coming out of the workforce and acting as caregivers for their parents or other older people in their family, or you have people hiring home caregivers to come into the home, or you have people moving into assisted living. And all of these things are very, very expensive. It's either very expensive in a sense that you have an out-of-pocket cost where you're hiring somebody to take care of a loved one, or you are foregoing your own income to come out of the workplace or to shorten your hours in the workplace so that you can take care of a loved one who cannot live without assistance.
Right. One of the problems is this very low unemployment environment is really putting a pinch too, because this is kind of one of those jobs that, although very important, considered, if you, not that I'm labeling it this, but it considered a low skilled job, right? It's you're most of us have the capacity to care for someone. Many times it's not an actual nurse or anything like that. They almost just need somebody to watch them sometimes and help them bathe and eat and things like that. So not something that you need maybe a 4-year or 6-year, college education for. So because of that, the pay, of course, is lower. And when unemployment is very low, people tend to avoid low-paying jobs that require a lot of work. And quite frankly, it's a very difficult job. It can be stressful. It can be physically taxing. And so we're seeing then, because of that, of course, the cost of home health care is growing substantially, just in order to be able to get the people who can do that job that are willing to do it.
Yeah, and I know this from my own family's experience. I have family on the East Coast and a mother-in-law, and we hire, through a service, we hire full-time help for her. She, can't get around on her own and all the other things. But it's mostly the people that are sent over are mostly people who have immigrated to the United States, and they're coming here because, to fill these jobs. And as a way of getting entry into the country. But a lot of the people who, have the ability to get a higher paying job, because the folks, according to this article, they're making an average about $11 an hour. You're giving up a lot to have an $11 an hour job.
Well, and then the flip side of that is we see a lot of times where a family member becomes the caregiver, and the family may even reimburse that person or help with their expenses. But a major part of that I don't think we're thinking about, and they talk about it in this article, is that person is actually giving up a lot more than just their wage. Right. They're probably in the peak earnings of their career at that point in time, because most likely the person needing care is in their 70s, which puts the caregiver probably in their 50s, if they're a child of the person needing care. And if they're in their 50s, they're in their peak earning years, which means they're not contributing to their 401k. They're not getting a match to their 401k or similar retirement plan. They're not getting credit for those years of Social Security. So even if they're stepping out of a $50,000 a year job, and you think that as a family you're still helping, kind of offset that for them, you're really not, because of all the other extenuating things they're missing out on. And that can then, it almost becomes cascading, because now that person who was the caregiver 30 years from now needs care, and they don't have the money because they took 5 years off from their life and didn't save enough and didn't get enough contributed to Social Security. So it becomes almost like a perpetual thing where once there's one person in your family who needs care, it starts to almost become there'll be multiple people and generationally that need care. So it's definitely something we have to look at and address. And unfortunately, we're going to talk about later, Bart, how messed up Social Security is. But, the government coming forward with initiatives like, what was it, Maine or something that had a...
Maine was putting forth a ballot proposal, and it was going to add a 3.8% tax to help to help subsidize the people who
Right.
are taking care. And one of the points that the article makes, and it got defeated, but it was the first kind of comprehensive one because it dealt with increasing the income, the pay for the people who are the caregivers, and it also dealt with raising taxes to help come up with the money to cover that. Now, Maine is already one of the highest tax states in the country, and I think that probably put a
Probably didn't help.
Probably helped defeat that. But it's also one of the states that has the largest percentage of population of people over 65 years of old.
But you can't blame people for turning that down when we see the history of when the government promises us something for only a little bit of our money.
Right.
It doesn't seem to me to, we're supposed to have cheaper health insurance, the last few years. That doesn't seem to be the case. Sure seems to be getting more expensive where I'm buying it from.
Right.
We were supposed to have retirement benefits guaranteed to us at 65. Now for me it's 68. For my kids it'll be 103. Those are all promises. Those are contracts that the government made with us. So Maine comes out and says, "We'll give you a new one. Give us 3.8% of your money, and we'll make sure you have long-term care." You can't blame 63% of the population for saying, "No, I'm all set, thanks."
Right. I'm not really trusting the source here.
No, why would you?
Well, it's the old analogy I always give. Like if a person's applying for 2 different jobs, and job A they offer them more money, and job B they offer them less money, but job A doesn't really have the money to pay them. Okay, so are you going to go and take the risk of getting more money from a company that
probably won't even be here,
that isn't financially able, or it has a lot of debt and may not be able to fulfill that promise on a long term? Or are you going to go with company B, who is smaller and paying less money, but they have a strong balance sheet and they're going to have the ability to pay you? People don't think of it like that, but it's kind of like, do you want the government, who has a history of promising big and delivering small, do you want to let them have that, or do you want to take the responsibility on yourself and through your own planning be able to plan for the care you may need in the future?
But we have to plan for it, and I think that's where the disconnect is. It
Right.
seems easier to give the government another 4% of my money because then they'll give me this benefit, right? But it's just like Social Security. There's a lot of argument on Huge's show earlier this week. He was talking about this idea we're going to talk about later about whether Social Security is a deficit issue or not. And a lot of people talked about the privatization of Social Security. Well, for a lot of people, that would make a lot of sense. For a lot of people, it would be disastrous because they've proven themselves they're not capable of saving or unwilling to.
Right.
So we either need radically different ideas to come forward, which means not the same political rhetoric that we hear all the time, or we need people to say, look, I have to sit down and figure this out for myself, which is probably the best alternative. But healthcare is going to cost you money.
Yes.
And you're going to need to have the money. So coming up in a minute, we're going to talk about how a health savings account might actually be a great way to do that in retirement, not today, right here on the Keeping Your Money Show.
It's never too late to plan for your future, and the Keeping Your Money Show can help. Our team of advisors can answer questions you may have about investing your money. Through Securities America, Inc., our advisors offer a diversified and comprehensive list of quality products and services. Call the Keeping Your Money Show at 1-888-98-MONEY or visit keepingyourmoney.com to schedule your free consultation.